Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the movie of What If Zero Dragon Issei Dimension Travel. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Battlefield. We see a brown-haired boy lying on the ground. In front of him was his greatest enemy, the Dragon of the Apocalypse or the Beast of the End. But Issei had already lost the strength to continue fighting since a few moments ago the girls who loved the brown-haired boy saved his life from being killed by Trihexa, but the cost was the lives of the girls. But that was not all, since he witnessed how his rival valet faced him to end this battle in that he heard a voice different from that of Drake. So that's it, you'll let the sacrifice of the girls who loved you be in vain. Answer, don't you see that everything is coming to an end? The voice in Issei's head screamed. I no longer have a reason to live. After this war has ended I will be alone again. Issei responded without emotions, since just imagining it made him lose more strength to keep fighting. So you just give up? What would you do if they saw you? The voice in Issei's head asked again. I don't know, it doesn't matter anymore. After all they are dead, Issei answered vaguely. Then he remembered those beautiful moments he spent with Rias and the others. But then he remembered that there was an object that could fulfill any wish, since Azazel had told him about that object. Thanks, unknown voice. I know what I'm going to do. I'll kick that dragon's ass and look for the Holy Grail, and I will revive them. In that, Issei stands up and activates his gauntlet. Don't thank me, buddy. Besides, I couldn't let Vala's rival die in such a pathetic way, the voice answered. At first, Issei didn't understand until he shouted. Albion, it's you. Issei shouted in his mind, drawing Drake's attention. It must be a joke, commented Drake, but he didn't give it any more importance and spoke. What are you going to do, partner? In that, Issei stands up and shouts with all his strength. Balance breaker. In that, two voices are heard. Wells Dragon Balance Breaker was what Drake shouted. Vanish Dragon Balance Breaker was what Albion had shouted. At that point on the battlefield there was a glow that caught everyone's attention, including the Trihexa who headed towards Issei. Crimson White Emperor Dragon Armor, Issei shouted, landing a blow on the dragon that I impressed everyone with the strength and speed that Issei now had. Time skip. After an arduous battle where Issei managed to seal the Trihexa again, Issei was willing to go find the Holy Grail but was pierced by a spear that was thrown treacherously, that was thrown no more or hands that by rise of him. In an act of anger he threw a spear, immediately killing Issei, but what he didn't count on was that before falling, a green portal had formed, swallowing Issei, where once again he saw the girls he loved saying goodbye to him, giving him a kiss on the lips each, where at the end, they told him we will see each other on the other side. Issei/Kun/Sama/Naya/Senpai and be happy in that new world. Issei, the only thing he could say was a thank you. Without further ado he was lost in the portal. Note, I will be uploading this story rarely. Just notice. World of Diextu, in the cemetery of the city of Kuo. In the human world we see many people and supernatural beings in front of a tombstone that had the names of those who had fallen before the Trihexa, those who faced him to fight for peace to endure in the world, but on the tombstone were the names of the nobility of Rias and the group of Valet, who died giving their lives to stop the Trihexa, and with regret they had to retire to their homes as it had gotten late, and leaving flowers they went to their homes. Alternate world, Kingdom of Tristain. It was a beautiful dawn in the Tristain kingdom in which a certain girl was getting ready to go to class, since today they would meet her predestined guard spirit, but she, not being someone very talented, regretted having said that she could summon the most powerful spirit of all, but at this moment she was insecure and did not know if she would succeed, since all the spells she performs end in an explosion. An hour later we see the group of second-year students from the academy summoning their familiars, but a certain pink-haired girl is nervous because she does not want to go through, but by chance a voice was heard. Okay, students, I think everyone has already called their relatives, so I am ending the class. At that point, a good-looking girl had to speak. Professor Colbert, someone is still missing, he said, looking at Louise, who tried to hide in vain after being discovered. It's true, please come in, Louise Françoise Leblanc de la Valliere, so that I can summon your familiar. At that point Louise stood in the middle, listening to murmurs from her companions who said that everything was going to end in an explosion. Without giving more importance to the matter, she began to say her invocation chant, and when she saw that nothing happened she was surprised, but then there was an explosion. Typical of you, Louise the Zero. You couldn't even summon your familiar, or maybe you don't have one, the good-looking girl began to mock. Shut up, Kerchi. Looking at her teacher she said, Professor Colbert, please let me do the invocation again. But she saw that he was staring at the sky, which surprised her, and she saw what was calling his attention. Issei was initially in a quiet place, so he liked being there for the tranquility, but from one moment to the next he opened his eyes as he felt a great breeze hitting him in the face, and what he saw did not please him since he was falling from a great height, so he tried to communicate with his tenants. Hey Albion, can you hear me? He spoke, hoping that Albion would answer him. What do you want, buddy? Let me rest. Don't you see that I'm tired from the war? He said, annoying Issei, who replied, sorry to bother you. If you were more observant, you would realize that we are falling from a great height. Then Albion opened his eyes and saw that they were indeed falling from a great height. With Louise, he was watching what Professor Colbert was doing and couldn't help but be surprised as he wondered how someone was falling from a great height. The other students just watched, and some just laughed since Louise couldn't summon her familiar, but their laughter was stopped when they felt a great power, and when they turned to look at the girl they saw that in front of her there was a brown-haired boy with large wounds, but the most striking thing were his blue wings with white decorations. A few moments ago with Issei he was talking to Albion, which made Draig also wake up, and seeing the situation they were in, the only thing he could do was laugh at the situation of his carrier. Hey Albion, lend me your wings, said Issei, and at that moment the wings of the divine dividing appeared, so he was able to avoid severe damage and take flight to land next to where there was a group of people. When everyone saw that the winged subject put his foot on the ground, he fell to the floor because he had not been able to rest long enough. Mr. Colbert approached to treat his wounds and was surprised that he was healed quickly. It seems that your familiar had a large-scale battle. Miss Louise, the aforementioned, could only ask Professor Colbert, this is my familiar that I was able to summon. The professor could only nod to the question since he had been able to feel the connection of the summoning and leaving many surprised. Hey, Miss Louise, you have to finish the invocation. Without further ado, Louise went on to say the oath and kiss Issei to finish the contract. After the kiss, runes appeared on Issei's right hand, which surprised Mr. Colbert, who told Louise to take him to the infirmary to finish healing. At that point, Louise, with the help of Geiche, who was the one who made him levitate, took him to the infirmary to be treated for his wounds. Academy of Magic. We see a brown-haired boy lying on a bed being watched by Professor Colbert, the director, and mainly Louise, since she was the one who summoned this boy, but they were not the only ones since Kerchi, Tabitha, and Montmorency were hiding at the door, wanting to know more about the young man who had fallen from the sky. In that everyone sees how the boy was waking up, and when he opened his eyes, he saw that he was not on the battlefield, in that all the memories of the last events came to his head, in that he sees that he was not alone. Hello, could you tell me where I am? Issei, he got out of bed wearing only his pants, causing the girls to blush since Issei had his pants uncovered from the waist up, showing off his well-worked body. Excuse me, could I repeat it? We don't understand anything, Professor Colbert had said, that who deduced that he had to do a translation spell. What did he say? Damn it, why don't I understand them? Issei asked himself, since if he didn't understand them, they wouldn't understand his words either. Go until you use your head, partner, commented Draig in Issei's mind. Haha, I think the change didn't hurt him at all. Draig, this time he had spoken Albion. Hey, don't make fun of me, and what change are you talking about? Issei thought, making the dragons get serious. Listen carefully, Issei. What happens is that we are in another dimension, said Draig seriously. Your body became 2% human, so now you are 98% dragon, Albion said. I see, then I'm in another dimension, and for now I'm 2% human, thinking and making the dragons affirm. While Issei was having the talk with the celestial dragons, on the other hand the others who were in the room saw how Issei fell silent, and this was taken advantage of by Professor Colbert to cast his translation magic. Issei came out of his thoughts when he felt a strange magic heading towards him, and when it was all over he wondered what had happened. What have they done to me? Issei asked. Well, it seems my spell worked, he said, drawing Issei's attention. Well, since everything is clear and we can understand each other, why the young man does not show up? This time the director spoke, making Issei react. Well, whatever, my name is Issei Hudo. It's a pleasure. He introduced himself. Hello, my name is Osmond and I am the director of the academy. The director of the academy introduced himself. I am Professor Colbert, one of the best magicians in the kingdom. It is a pleasure, he said, bowing. Hello, my name is Louise Françoise Leblanc de la Valliere and I was the one who summoned you. Louise introduced herself. It's a pleasure, I guess, he said, scratching his cheek. Well, young Issei, I was wondering if we can ask him some questions, the director of the academy commented. Well, I don't see the problem, said Issei. At that, Louise stands up and takes a step forward and asks the question. Well, could you tell me what those wings of yours were? He said, making everyone pay attention since they also wanted to know. Well, those wings were one of the 2 sacred gears that I have, he said, creating more doubts. Well, could you tell us what those sacred gears are that you're talking about? Now Professor Colbert is speaking. Well, for that I must introduce myself correctly, causing everyone to be surprised. Well, my name is Issei Haidu, bearer of the 2 celestial sacred gears, the boosted gear and the wings of divine dividing, where the 2 dragons of destruction are sealed, and since I am their bearers, I am known as Thisekaryuti or Hakuryu, leaving everyone speechless. Well, I suppose you want to break the contract with me. It's logical that someone who has power like that shouldn't be with someone like me, Louise said, almost crying. Then she felt arms around her head. Thank you, was what the brown-haired boy said, surprising everyone. Why do you thank me? Louise asked, looking into Issei's eyes. Well, you see, before I came to this world, I was in a fight against the dragon of the apocalypse or the beast of the end where my world was almost destroyed. Although I lost all my women, now I live to move forward for them since I lost them in that battle where after several days I was able to seal the dragon again. This left everyone surprised. But don't worry about our contract since I will protect you, making Louise feel happy. Wait, you said women, did you have a lot of girls with you? She said in a jealous way. Well, you see, since I'm a dragon, it's normal for us to have more than one wife. This shocked everyone except the director who was jealous. Well, we'll leave that topic for another day. Let's go to my room so you can rest. Then Louise leaves the infirmary with Issei to his room. After Issei left the infirmary with Louise, who had a smile because she finally managed to do something amazing, Director Osmond was going to warn all the nobles, teachers and commoners not to make Issei angry since he himself along with Professor Colbert could feel a great power emanating from him once he woke up and wanted to avoid a tragedy, so he would give the notice tomorrow at breakfast time. While with Issei, he was following Louise to her room so that his familiar could rest. Once they arrived, Louise went to take a shower. Once she left, she told Issei that he should also take a bath, to which he gladly accepted since he had been at war against the Chaos Brigade for several months. So a bath would not do him any harm. Once she left, she saw how Louise was changing to sleep, so she made a magic circle making a white shirt and blue shorts appear. This demonstration made Louise feel happy to have someone so powerful to protect her apart from being cute in her eyes. Hey Louise, where will I sleep? Issei asked, bringing Louise out of her thoughts. Well, as you can see, there is only one bed, so we will have to share it until we can do something, she said with a blush since this would be the first time she did this kind of thing. That doesn't bother you, I could sleep somewhere else, he said, making Louise shake her head and move so Issei could lie down. Good night, Issei, said Louise, and then fell deeply asleep. Good night, Louise, said Issei, making Louise smile unconsciously. The next morning the first to stand up was Louise, so she went to change to go have breakfast. Moments later Issei woke up and Louise told him that she had to be in the dining room. At that Issei stood up and with a magic circle he changed his clothes. This is the way she dressed. A blush appeared on Louise's cheeks, making Issei feel embarrassed since Rias had given him those clothes, and since he didn't have any others he took the opportunity to wear them. After that awkward moment they went to the dining room. Issei, sorry, but yesterday I didn't tell you that you would come with me to the dining room today, so you couldn't sit down, said Louise, all embarrassed for forgetting that detail. Don't worry, Louise, I understand. Don't worry, making Louise feel calmer. But I won't stop feeding you, since I ordered a small lunch to be made for you. Then a girl in a maid's outfit arrives, giving him the food. Thanks, Louise. Then Issei takes the food and goes to find a table to eat. In the dining room, all the nobles were sitting, making everyone start saying a prayer, and once finished, Director Osmond went on to give an announcement. Could you give me your attention, please? Calling everyone's attention. I'll only say it once. I want to warn you that I don't want you to anger Louise's guardian spirit, because if you do, I won't take responsibility or put my hands in to save you, said the director seriously, causing some to wonder why and causing others to just say that the director is exaggerating. After all the nobles finished their breakfast, they left, so Louise went to look for Issei, followed by Tabitha and Kerchi. After eating, Issei went to follow the maid who had given him the food, but he also wanted to talk to her since he noticed typical features of a person from Japan, apart from the fact that Drake and Albion told him that this girl had a sacred gear, so he went to look for her to find out if what they said was true. At that, Louise saw Issei talking to the maid who had asked him to prepare the food and deliver it to her. At that, Louise approached to find out why Issei was talking to her. Very well, Siesta, I'll see you later, and I hope you can help me so I can read the language of this world. See you later. Issei for some reason wanted to run away but ignored it, and when he turned back he saw Louise with an aura of death. At that moment he told her everything and why he approached that girl, since he felt that if he did not tell her his reasons she would castrate him. Well, for now it would be better if we informed the director about this. Issei was left thinking about why he did that, but he put it aside and followed Louise to the direction of the academy. Issei, accompanied by Louise, would go to the address to say what happened with Siesta, even though Louise was going speaking about why Siesta had an object from Issei's world, but most importantly what would it be, and once they arrived at the address they went to tell him what happened to Siesta, and Director Osmond was impressed since a commoner had a sacred object, so he decided that Siesta would be in Louise's care and that Issei would train Siesta, since if other nobles found out she would be taken by force with the nobles who are interested in her power, to which he signed a document where Siesta would be at the personal service of Miss Louise, for which Issei was upset by the way he said it, and Louise was jealous since she thought that if Siesta was near Issei she would snatch him from her side, but then she remembered that Issei is a dragon and therefore he will have several partners, so his anger would subside, so they left the office since there was nothing else to do. On the way they passed by one of the tables that the academy had in the courtyard, and they would wait for Siesta to see if they informed him that he would now be at Louise's service, but then they saw a scandal where they saw two girls hitting Che, who when looking around saw that Issei was staring at him and devised a way to get out of his bad time. Hey you commoner, this is your fault. Now I have no choice but to give you what you deserve, he said arrogantly, causing irritation in Issei and panic in Louise, Kerchi, Tabitha and Montmorency. Apologize now, Kerchi shouted. I won't do it. That dirty commoner deserves a lesson for making two beautiful women cry, he said arrogantly. Do it now, Louise said with concern as Issei began to emanate a red glow. I won't do it and I don't plan on retracting it, said Che, crossed arms. Damn it, apologize now, said Montmorency, angry and worried as she noticed the red aura that surrounded Issei. You too, Montmorency, said Che, somewhat surprised since he knew his girlfriend's personality. Che, if you get hurt, keep in mind that I will not help you, and if you are expelled for not obeying the director's instructions, we will not support you, so apologize now. Tabitha spoke, equally worried about the aura that Issei emanated. Her dragon flew away in fear. I don't think so, and what's more, he challenged you to a fight, said Che, to try out Issei's patience, since although he had mentally stabilized due to the loss of his girls, this boy's attitude reminded him of those he had to fight to be able to live in peace. Well, I hope you don't regret it and that your words have that value, because once I start I won't let you go until I defeat you, and tell me where I see you, he said, making his dragon aura rise, causing the sky to turn red, causing fear in everyone. In the backyard, Che had already said that he did not want to appear cowardly in front of others, so Issei goes where Che told him to go. Hey Che, you're inheriting your stuff, said one of the blonde's friends, which caused terror since the sky was still red. When Che arrived at the backyard he saw that Issei had a more powerful aura and was rethinking whether what he had said and done was a good idea. Well, it's time for combat, said Issei with his green right eye and his blue left eye shaped like a slit like that of a reptile. I give up, please forgive my life, I don't want to die, I still have many things to do in life. Forgive me, I didn't know what I was saying. I am a vile worm who doesn't think about what he says and does, and I'm sorry for being a womanist. I promise that if you forgive my life it will never be like this. He had said everything kneeling in front of Issei, who stopped emanating his dragon power so that the sky would return to its color. You recorded it, Drake, said Issei, looking at his right arm, leaving everyone confused except the girls who already knew that the dragon was on his left arm. Of course, mate, I recorded everything, said Drake through the gem, surprising everyone. Well, for this time I'm going to pass, but take this into account that never ever bother a dragon. For some reason I have the titles of Security and Hacker, causing many to be surprised and others to be afraid of the boy. One more thing, and this is for everyone. If I hear again that they make fun of my Louise, you will have to deal with me, you understand, he said, emanating a bit of her power made things clear, in that Louise feels that she is hugged, and when she turns to see who it is she is surprised that it was Issei, and he carries her in a bridal way, and taking out Albion's wings he flies away. After Issei left with Louise to see Siesta to see if they had already notified him that he would be in Louise's care, Director Osmond would arrive to see what had happened since he felt the great concentration of magic, apart from the fact that the sky turned blood red, which worried the director even more. Can someone tell me what happened? Said Principal Osmond, seeing that all the students were standing there with some fear and Issei on his knees with a stain on his pants, just like all the men. Well, what happened was Issei had insulted Louise's familiar and then challenged him to a fight, to which Louise's familiar expelled much of his power, causing the sky to turn red. Issei explained what happened. Apart from the fact that he threatened us if we offended Louise again, Zero, said one of Guiche's friends, thinking that the director would do something about it. What do you think you're saying, idiot? Said the director, surprising the noble who spoke, and that he was defending Louise's familiar. Don't you see that if he were to use all his power, we wouldn't be able to do anything against him, and he would end up destroying the entire kingdom, and you would be to blame for that? The director spoke once more, surprising everyone who thought that the director could defeat Louise's commoner. But what are you saying, director? You are one of the best magicians? Said one of Guiche's other friends. Shut up for once. Miss Louise's familiar is not a common familiar. He is a dragon, apart from the fact that inside him live two celestial dragons with the ability to kill gods. Now everyone was terrified by the simple fact that the boy is not a human but a dragon, and if it were not worse, dragons of great power to kill gods were sealed inside him. This is the last time I will say it. Do not provoke Louise's relative, otherwise you will receive punishment or death from Miss Louise's relative, and as for you, young Issei, your punishment will be to wash the bathrooms for a week, since you could have caused the destruction of the kingdom. He spoke for the last time and then left, leaving Issei pale from what he almost caused. As for the punishment, he didn't say anything, although it did bother him that someone of his level did that kind of work, but he wouldn't complain. While with Issei he was talking with Siesta under the gaze of Louise. Well, since you know that you will be at Louise's service, I would like you to make me a siesta. A favor, said Issei, making Louise raise an eyebrow. Yes, Issei, I'll see if I can do it, said Siesta tenderly. Well, I want you to raise your right hand and concentrate your power in your hand. Close your eyes and think of the strongest person you know, said Issei, making Siesta hesitate at first but decided to trust Issei and began to do what he told her, in that a light appeared in his right hand, and when it stopped shining a light blue or sky gauntlet with a white gem was seen. Wow, they finally activated my power after 70 years, haha, and from what I see I'm not the only one, said the right hand. Haha, who would have thought that the Ice Dragon King would be here, said a green gem in Issei's right hand. Hello Zorg, I haven't seen you since your carrier died in World War II, said the wings that appeared on Issei. Fence, apparently the brothers finally reconciled, said Zorg, making Issei surprised. You are brothers, said Issei, surprised and shouting to his right hand. Yes, why do you think we always fought even through our carriers, since one must be the strongest to take the role of the older brother, said Dryag. Besides, I don't want to be the younger brother, and I don't think Darrig wants to be either, said Albion. Well, let's leave that aside, said Issei, looking at Siesta. You need help moving since you're going to move into the room next door, said Issei, trying to see if Siesta needed help. No, my things were already taken, but thanks for your concern, said Siesta. Well, get ready because tomorrow I will start training the two of you, said Issei, looking at Louise and then at Siesta. Wait, not tomorrow. Because tomorrow I have to go to the village for some things, said Louise, making Issei look at her. Okay then, not tomorrow, to which he began to retreat to the room to think about the training routine for both of them. During the month that Issei had spent at the Magic Academy, many things happened. One of the most notable was Kerchi's harassment, since whenever she saw him she always tried to seduce him, to the discomfort of Issei and the fury of Louise. Louise along with Siesta have trained their magic, Louise her control and Siesta to manifest the magic granted by the dragon that is sealed. Louise's progress was so much that they were impressed when she did a spell without making things explode or explode. Even Director Osmond was tempted to give her a job as a teacher, so that the academy would be much better than it already was. But Issei did not accept, since he told him that the progress Louise had was because he dedicated all his attention to her and a little napping, since she still could not use her magic power. But returning to the present, we see a pink-haired girl trying to calm her maid, since she received a letter asking the school to deliver Siesta to a noble of high society, which worried the director. Knowing what Issei was like, the director is thinking how to solve the problem, without a fight breaking out, but was taken out of his thoughts when said noble entered the address. Good afternoon, Count Moat. I don't know if it is written like that. Welcome, said Director Osmond. Good afternoon, Director. I've come for the maid I hired and to resolve certain matters. While with Issei, he had gone out to the nearest town, since Louise and Siesta were sick, which surprised Issei, but he did not give it much importance since anyone can get sick from the stomach, so he took flight with Albion's wings to the nearest town, where Issei would have to buy a potion. Time skip. Once Issei found the store, he went to buy what Louise asked him for, but his return was interrupted when he saw two men attacking a weak, muscleless young man, so Issei went to confront them. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Issei would say as his dragon aura rose, causing the bandits to be afraid. And who are you to take away from us? A tall, overly muscular man would say. My name is Hudo Issei, and I will not allow you to get away with scaring this man. The man then began to laugh. Ha ha, boy, this is my city, they are under my orders, since not even the princess can do anything against me. Ha. In that, Issei gives him a blow, breaking his bones and sending him flying towards a mountain, scaring the man's companions. Trash, I'll only say this once. If I ever see you or your boss again, believe me, I won't let you live another day. At that, all of the man's henchmen ran away. The people thanked him for what he had done, and in return they gave him a somewhat rusty sword, but Issei gladly accepted it, so he decided to go back to the academy. When he arrived, he gave the potion to Louise and Siesta so they could recover. At the academy, we see that Director Osmond explained to him that Siesta was not available, and therefore he could not take her, which provoked the anger of Count Ira, and he did not like the idea, so he decided to go for the maid with his own hands. Please don't do it, said the director, surprising the count. Don't tell me that brat has privileges in this academy, the earl asked the director, who was scared because if he reveals that Louise's guard is a celestial dragon, they will not hesitate to use Issei, or Issei would kill them before they use him. Well, if you have nothing else to say, I'll go get my maid, said the count, leaving through the door, bringing the director out of his thoughts. With Issei. Issei was flying back to the academy. As he was in a hurry to know how Louise and Siesta were doing, he flew as fast as he could. When he got to Louise's room, he saw a fat man about to enter, so he unsheathed the rusty sword he had and held it at the man's neck. What do you think you're doing, commoner? The count shouted. And who are you to call me a fat, damn commoner? Issei finished, impressing his guards, who never thought that someone would say that to the count. You know who I am, said the count arrogantly. No, and I don't think I care, said Issei, leaving the count incredulous, while Issei gave the potion to Louise and Nap. Damn commoner, said the count, sending some thread stakes that hit Issei. Haha, you see, no one can against me, but then the count receives a blow from Issei. Stop calling me a commoner, damn scum, said Issei, activating his sacred gears. What are you? Said the count, frightened, as his power suddenly rose. I am Hudo Issei, the current bearer of the celestial dragons, Issei said, emanating an aura of power. Very well, listen to me, trash. In that, Issei grabbed the earl by the neck and lifted him up, while his guards held nothing out of fear of the man in front of them. Call me a commoner again, and I swear that they will be your last words. In that, Issei threw the earl to the ground, and a noticeable stain was seen on the earl's pants. Okay, But don't do anything to me, said the count, but then Issei kicked him, sending him flying out of the building. Well, that will teach him some manners, said Issei without noticing the scared faces of the count's guardians. Issei has shown his power again and what he is capable of, said Osmond, to prevent Issei from killing the Earl, but from what he saw he only broke all his bones with the kick plus the impact when he fell. I think things are going to get interesting with Issei here, the director thought to himself as he left the student rooms. The will of Great Red and Office. Issei's POV. Nani was the scream that Issei gave in his mental space. Calm down, buddy, said Drake, trying to understand what was happening. In my opinion, I think we'll be good guys, said Albion with grace. Normal POV. In Issei's mental space there was something he didn't expect since the moment he woke up. Drake and Albion called Issei to his mind, and when he arrived he saw nothing more and nothing less than an egg the size of a mountain. What should I do? Issei said, confused and upset. I say you do what you always do since you caught the attention of the kingdom and the queen by using your power, said Albion. You should already be planning what to do since I doubt the elders will sit back and do nothing, said Drake. Kit, said Issei, but then the egg started making weird sounds. An explosion has been heard. As the smoke dispersed, a black dragon with red eyes emerged. So you are the one who was given the power of infinity and the dream. I'm sorry it's cut off, but I didn't want to leave you without a cap until the other one. Well, first of all I want to apologize for my inactivity, but leaving that aside, let's move on to the most important thing. Stories will be updated from Monday to Thursday. Mondays will be Zero's Dragon, Naruto Uzumaki Dragneel. Tuesdays, -3 Shinobi in a World of Heroes. Izuku the new Sekiryu. A new story will come out which will be Naruto the reincarnation of the brothers. This FIC will be about an alternate Naruto with the abilities of the Uzumaki brothers, from my FIC of 3 Shinobis in a World of Heroes. Irene and Urza in a World of Ninjas. This FIC came to me while I was cleaning the house, and this FIC will be about Irene and Urza in the world of Naruto. Obviously Naruto will have a harem, and I'm not going to tell you anything else. And on Thursdays? Well, on this day I will update the 2 most supported fics. Well, that would be all, and I say goodbye. See you next week. Issei's mind space. The current situation for our brown-haired boy was not the best because at this moment Issei was in front of the power that was granted to him by Office and Great Red, and let's say that the look was not an approval. I don't know why the red dragon made you. It seems that you are weak and not fit to use the power of Office, said the black dragon. And you think I'm going to care about what you say? I didn't ask for this. It just happened and that's it. And if you don't want to help me, I don't care. Before I was alone with Drake and I did things that a low-class devil wouldn't achieve, Issei replied, not letting them denigrate him. Haha, you are interesting human, demon, or dragon, what are you? Pest. Issei at that time he didn't know what to answer since he was once a human, then he became a demon, and after Samuel killed her he became a dragon. The dragon just looked at Issei, and depending on his response, he would make a decision for better or worse. Issei was blank, as he didn't expect the dragon to ask him something like that, and it seemed he wasn't going to wait another day for him to give him his answer. But in that the image of all his loved ones passed through his mind, the memories where he was with Irina, Asia, Zenobia, Kaneko, Kuroka, Yasaka, Kunu, Serafal, Penemu, Rossways, Gabriel, Ravel, Momo, Aquino, and lastly, the woman he loves with passion and the only one who showed him love when he was a hopeless pervert, when he was a nobody, that woman was Rias, and with that in mind he raised his gaze. I am a dragon with a human heart and the strength of a demon. I am a friend, an ally, an enemy. It depends on what you want me to be for you, answered Issei without being intimidated by his answer. You are aware of your response, said the dragon. I'm sure I speak without a doubt in his voice. I see. Well, Issei, it is better that you wake up since now we will be partners and you will be my first carrier, said the dragon proudly. Issei asked, not understanding what the dragon was saying. We'll talk about that later, boy, said the dragon. And without further ado, Issei was expelled from his mental space, and when he opened his eyes the first thing he saw was an annoyed Louise. Until you wake up, Issei, said Louise with a whip in her hand. Why does Louise have that? I asked, not wanting to know the answer. This is a whip that I was going to use because you wouldn't wake up, she said with an evil smile. Well, I'll leave that aside and I'm sorry, something happened and well, I just woke up, said Issei, leaving Louise wanting to know what happened. Well, we have to go eat, said Issei, not letting Louise speak. And without further ado the two went outside where on the way Louise and Issei saw some of Louise's companions with their familiars doing some tricks. What will happen there? Say us. I don't know, answered Louise. Oh darling, said Kerchi. Oh Kerchi, what happened? Issei asked, to which she just hugged his arm, putting his arm between her breasts, making Issei a little nervous and Louise annoyed. I just wanted to see you, darling, she said. See? But could you let go of my arm? Issei asked kindly for something that Kerchi liked, and once she separated we spoke. Hey, what's going on? Louise asked. You don't know Princess Henrietta? Kerchi replied, looking at Louise strangely since everyone knew about that. Well, let's leave that aside, Issei said, stopping the two girls from fighting. That same night. It was already night and Issei was already lying on the straw. The reason for that is that Louise moves a lot at night while she sleeps. Sometimes she gets some kicks from the pink-haired girl. I really don't understand you. Why don't you want to sleep with me? She asked. There is no reason, just that today I want to sleep a little cooler, he replied, not wanting to hurt her feelings. Louise was already ready for bed. She had just changed, revealing herself in a pink robe. But then someone entered the room, alerting Issei and Louise. Issei immediately summoned his gauntlet. But something happened. Issei did not feel Drake's power and saw his hand, and there was nothing. But then Louise sees her right hand, drawing Issei's attention, so she lowered her hand and saw her right hand with a black glove with purple gems. Oh Louise, how good to see you, said the hooded woman. As I promised, here is the chapter and vote if you want me to upload the next part of this fic on Thursday. It's good to see you again, my dear Louise, said the hooded woman. Louise and Issei shouted. Or you identify yourself? Issei ordered, not knowing who his surprise guest was. At that the hooded girl took off her hat, showing the face of a beautiful girl, her purple hair, blue eyes and a very beautiful body, before the gaze of Issei, who gave his approval. At that Louise immediately prostrates herself before the girl under the gaze of Issei, who did not know who this girl was in front of them. Hey Louise, who is she? The brunette asked the pink-haired girl, and she immediately pulled the fence, causing the brunette's face to hit the ground. Excuse my relative's insolence, but despite being disrespectful, he is very strong, said Louise while pulling the brown-haired boy's nose, so that he would show more respect. Don't worry, my dear Louis, the girl spoke. Nice to meet you, I'm Issei, said the brown-haired boy, at last, understanding what Louise wanted him to do. Nice to meet you, I'm Princess Henrietta. The princess introduced herself. Forgive my insolence, but why did you come to see me? Louis asked the princess, who just smiled at her. It's bad that I can't come see my childhood friend, she said with irony. Do you know each other? Issei asked, joining in on the noble's conversation. Of course, I had the honor of playing with the princess when we were little girls, said Louise, remembering one of the many times when little Louise and a little princess played, where in the end they promised that if one of them needed help, the other would come to her aid. I see, was the only thing Issei said before lying down on his straw. But princess, it's wrong that you came to see me, what will the others say? Louise said, grabbing the princess's shoulders. Well, one was because I wanted to see you, you are my best friend and the only one I can count on, she said sadly, since in a couple of months she is going to become queen of her own kingdom. And the other is because I wanted to meet the familiar who has threatened several nobles. Many say that the commoner familiar has the balls to do that, she said, making Issei frown and making Louise tense, since she knows that Issei doesn't like being called a commoner. But it doesn't matter, because thanks to him, several nobles who have been abusing their power now think twice before acting, as they fear meeting him. She finished speaking. Well, before being a dragon I was human, but thanks to a certain event I ended up being a demon and then a dragon, Issei said, surprising the princess. Well, I hope you show your skills at the festival tomorrow, said the princess. Well, I'll look forward to tomorrow, but for now it would be better to say goodbye, said the princess, hugging Louise. See you tomorrow, said Louise before going to bed. The next day. Today was the day. Everyone in the academy was preparing, but the most tense were the students, because they must do their demonstration with their families. And without any problem the festival began. In the royal stands you can see Princess Henrietta, protected by her knights. In the same stands were the director of the academy, but he was not the only one, as there were some nobles who had come to see firsthand the power of the familiar that has challenged the nobles. And not only them but also the teachers who have not seen the power of the familiar of the noble Louise. Without further ado, the presentations of the academy students along with their families were not long in coming. They had been fascinated by the power of the Kerchi salamander's fire or by the aerial ability of Tabitha's familiar. So the relatives went on until it was Louise's turn, who got nervous since she hadn't prepared anything. That is until Issei gave her a paper and she thanked him, and with a little more confidence in herself she waited until they named her. When it was her turn, everyone was looking at Louise and her parando. She stood firm and took a step forward. "Hello, my name is Louise Françoise Leblanc de la Valliere, and I have the pleasure of introducing my familiar, Hayato Issei, a king-class dragon and current bearer of the 3 celestial dragons. I present Louise to Issei, who only bowed, and with that, Louise took a few steps back. Issei went on to activate his sacred gear. Balance breaker, Issei shouted as he was enveloped in a red light, and when it cleared, a red armor was revealed, with golden details and green gems. Gel's dragon balance breaker. The nobles, upon feeling the power of the armor, tensed as they could feel the power, and let's say they felt true terror. But Issei was not done, as he deactivated his armor and let himself fall before activating the divine dividings and shouting balance breaker. Vanishing dragon balance break. Everyone was shocked to see that Miss Louise's familiar was indeed powerful, and many already had in mind not to get in his way. Issei maneuvered in the sky again and then landed elegantly. Everyone present began to applaud for Issei's display of power, but before anyone could say anything he was attacked from behind. Issei turned to see who had attacked him, and when he did he was in shock, and then tears came out. Since 3 silhouettes were seen in the sky, but no one did anything for fear of their power. "Rias, Kirka, Irina," said Issei, surprising Louise, who was near him. "Well, this was the FIC that had the most votes and views, so it's done. Well, until next week. In an hour the story of Irene and Urza, A New Life, will be published, since it was the one that came in second place. There are 3 girls in heaven that no one recognized except Issei, who when he saw them his heart was happy. Suddenly the 3 girls came down in front of Issei, but there he noticed his eyes were brown. Rias, Kuroka, Irina. The named ones did not respond, and raising their hands they attacked the CH, not attacking it. "Girls, what's wrong with you?" Issei shouted, trying to make the girls see reason. But then he had to dodge a senjutsu attack from Kuroka. All the students of the academy immediately ran out. The guards protected the princess so that none of the attacks launched did not hit their princess. While on the other side of the academy, a hooded woman had infiltrated the academy in order to steal a device capable of destroying armies. Or so they said, which is why their job was to steal it during the family presentation that the school was going to hold. Luckily for her, everything had gone well for her, since she was afraid that she would meet the famous relative who confronts the nobles. Returning with Issei. Issei was facing a difficult decision, as he did not want to hurt his girls. "Hey buddy, what are you going to do?" Albion asked. "I don't know, I don't want to hurt any of them," Issei said while dodging a power of destruction from Rias. "They don't seem to be in themselves, it's like they're in a trance or someone is controlling them," said Dryag, making Issei and Albion agree. "But how do I wake them up without hurting them?" he asked his companions. "You forget that you have my power, boy. You have the power of infinity, the only thing that limits you is your imagination," said the black dragon. "And how do I manifest your power?" asked the brown-haired boy. "Did you forget that my power manifested in your right arm?" said the dragon. And Issei tried to manifest the dragon glove but couldn't. "The only way you can use the power granted by the dragon gods is if you make a deal with me," the dragon spoke in Issei's mind, while outside Issei only dodged the attacks of his girls. "And how do I make a deal with you?" Issei asked, already somewhat tired by the dragon's way of being. "Easy, just give me a name," said the dragon, to which Issei began to think that this was not a good time for such things. But seeing that Rias was shedding tears while attacking him, he began to think. Irina took out her sword, and in an attempt to stab the brown-haired boy, Issei saw the same thing as with Rias. Irina was crying. Issei deactivated his armor and began to emanate his power, and inhaling he screamed. "Come on, Apollinaire," was the cry he gave before being surrounded by darkness. Of course, mate, that was what the dragon said before his maximum power was activated. Infinity Dragon Balance Breaker. A pillar of black fire rose up. Everyone present could feel the overwhelming power it expelled. The worst thing is that this armor made it impossible for those present to breathe. The students and nobles present could feel his power. They were so scared that they warned the other nobles not to mess with him. But back in the fight, the moment Issei activated his armor, gems came out of the girls' bodies. "I think you should stop emanating your power, mate," said Drake, since the people who were near him, like Geiche and his lackeys, were foaming at the mouth. "I think so," Chi said without further ado, deactivating his armor, and when he deactivated it, everyone could breathe again. Issei didn't waste any time and approached his girls. "Rias, are you okay?" the brown-haired boy asked the redhead, who slowly opened her eyes. "Issei, my Issei, forgive me," she said, wanting to cry. "Don't worry, Rias, everything will be fine," the brunette answered, making the redhead stand up. At that, both Irina and Kuroka launched themselves with the brown-haired boy wrapping them in a hug. Issei-kun, said Irina. Issei-naya, was the only thing Kuroka repeated. But their reunion was interrupted by an explosion coming from one of the academy's warehouses. Everyone present went to see what was happening, Rias and the girls who were there at the moment too, not wanting to leave the brown-haired boy alone again. When everyone arrived, what they saw was a giant earth golem that had smashed the school's warehouse until it broke. And from the hole made by the earth golem came out a hooded woman. "Fukit," said the director, who made an appearance. "Who are they?" Rias asked Issei, who shook his head, implying that he didn't know either. "She's a thief," Louise replied, having reminded Issei that he abandoned the pink-haired girl to go for Rias and the others. "She must be stopped," said the director. But then a magic circle appeared under the earth golem, making it disappear. "You know that if you want the story to continue, it must have more views than the others, so that on Thursday I can update the file with more views and votes." At this moment, Issei, Rias, Irina, Kuroka, Louise, the princess and the school director were in the academy director's office talking. It's been a day since Rias, Kuroka and Irina had arrived in the world of Zero no Tsukaima, and the day before Issei had told them how he had come to that world and the things he had done during the month he had been at the academy. "I see," Rias said, catching up on what her fiancé had done since he came into this world. "Hey Rias, do you know why they attacked me?" Issei asked his fiancé, who didn't know what to say since she didn't remember anything, and she didn't even know how she came to this world in the first place. "I don't remember how I got here," said Rias, confused. "And you know something?" Issei asked Irina and Kuroka, who were in the same situation as Rias. "The only thing I remember is that I stood between you to prevent the Triexa from killing you, and from there everything was white, until you freed us," said Irina, clarifying the things she remembered. "I see. Then there is a possibility that the others are alive and in the hands of someone who will be controlling them," said Issei, somewhat annoyed for messing with his women. "It is most likely," the director spoke this time. "But there is something that worries me, and that is the power of the other women of young Issei," said Colbert, somewhat scared by the power of the people of Issei's world. "Well, for now we will leave that aside. In the meantime, Miss Rias, Miss Irina and Miss Kuroka will have to rest," said the princesses. "Do you think they can give him a room to rest?" Issei asked. "There will be no problems, young Issei," said the director, but before anyone could say anything, Rias spoke. "Wait, why couldn't Issei sleep in the same room as me?" Rias asked, somewhat annoyed, supported by Irina and Kuroka, who wanted to take advantage of the bug to have Issei before the others arrived. "That won't be possible since Issei must take care of his mistress Ho." Louise spoke with an arrogant smile and happy to have Issei. "And who are you to say that? You are not his mistress, but I am his mistress, lover and fiancé," said Rias jealously. "If you also want to please Issei, you must have these," said Kuroka while grabbing her huge breasts. This action caused Issei and the director of the academy to faint from a nosebleed. "Wow, young he, I envy you," said the director. "And that's even though he hasn't met my other women," Issei spoke proudly of his harem. Ahem, Princess Henrietta caught the attention of the male gods who were talking about their things. But inside she was upset because compared to her, her breasts were not as big as those of the 3 girls present in the room. Well, leaving that aside for the moment, I want you to rest and don't worry that I will visit you and I promise that I will make it up to you, said Issei smiling, to which Rias, Kuroka and Irina reluctantly accepted. Without further ado, the days passed without any problems. Well, there was one, and that was that several of the nobles wanted Issei's women. This caused Issei to want the blood of those bastards on his hands. But there wasn't much that Issei could do, since Rias, Kuroka and Irina showed him their marks that they belonged to Issei. Rias had the mark on her right arm below her shoulder, Kuroka had it on the left side of her neck, and Irina had the mark on her right wrist. All the men tried to get Issei to explain to them why he had tattooed that mark on them. To which Issei gladly explained to them that this mark appeared when a dragon made love to his partner and that this tattoo represented that the woman belonged to the dragon. After so many of the men tried to persuade Rias, Kuroka and Irina to be their women, they only launched magical attacks at them because of how annoying they were, since they only loved one man, and that was Issei. Current time. At this moment we see Issei looking at the sky. Next to him was Rias lying on his shoulder. Both had decided to spend their time alone, since when the others came to him, things would go back to how they were before. Addition to more girls entering Issei's harem, and that was something that Rias was aware of. So Issei, what are we going to do? Rias asked Issei, since she wanted to stay in this world and live the life she always dreamed of, one in which she could have a family. Maybe her son would be brown-haired with blue eyes or red-haired with honey-colored eyes. Well, first we'll look for the others, then we'll see if we can return to our world and make our life together, said Issei. I see, but to be honest I want to stay here and live a quiet life with you, said Rias, looking into Issei's eyes. Issei was going to speak, but in that Rias and Issei saw how a white-haired girl came to them, landing and then recognizing her. I finally found you, said the girl. Momo, said Rias when she saw the wounded girl. Calm down, you'll be fine, said Issei, taking the girl's hand. I know, she said, to close her eyes and rest because she was tired. I swear I will make the bastard who did this to you pay with blood, Momo thought, annoyed, watching Momo rest in the redhead's arms. Days have passed since Momo arrived at the Magic Academy where Issei was. In the first days Issei was worried about the reason why Momo did not wake up. He almost did not eat or sleep because he was aware of Momo, that caused the jealousy of both Rias, Irina and Kuroka, since they wanted to spend time with their brown-haired boy. But thanks to Drake's intervention, who clarified that a dragon will always be aware of its females, they calmed down a bit and supported Issei. When Momo woke up, Issei was the one who was the happiest, which made Kuroka embarrass the brunette. Kuroka told him how Issei took care of her day and night. This caused Issei to be embarrassed and Momo to turn red with shame. And then what does Momo remember? Rias asked the albino girl. The only thing I remember is that I woke up in this place, so I decided to explore it and look for an answer. After a while I saw how all of you were carried by some men in robes, and from there I stayed in search of how to free you, with all of her surprising those present. After that I saw how they used a strange ring to control them. I think they took advantage of the fact that they were weak and would not put up much resistance to their control, but just when they sent you 3 to attack Issei-chan, he was attacked by a Gabriel who was being controlled, and then she threw me into a river so they would think I was dead, and then I searched for her energy until I found you here. Momo finished telling what happened. I see, was what Issei said to Momo. Do you know where they are? Rias asked, worried about her entourage and her harem sisters. Yes, but I don't know if they are still there, she said. Well, rest, we'll see about that, said Issei, and then kissed the albino on the lips and left his room, leaving Rias and the others. Hey Drake, is there any way to locate them? Issei asked his partner. They are already outside in the academy field. I don't know, my friend, maybe the mark you left can guide you to them, Drake answered Issei's question. Issei didn't say anything and just stared at the sky right where the 2 moons were shining. He was so deep in his thoughts that he didn't see a certain person who was behind him. I know I shouldn't get involved in other people's lives, a voice was heard, calling the brown-haired boy's attention. Oh Louise, what's wrong? He asked the person who may have saved his life. Well, I heard everything you're going through, and since you're my familiar it's my duty as your mistress to watch over you, said Louise in its Sundra way. This girl sometimes looks like Ravel, were the thoughts of the brown-haired boy remembering his little phoenix. I was just thinking, who are the bastards who have my women? The brown-haired man answered, surprising the pink-haired woman. I don't understand why you have a harem. The only ones here who have a harem are some nobles and they can only have 3 women at most. But you? She said, looking at the brown-haired boy. I know, but they still chose me, a hopeless pervert who only made himself special by having this sacred gear that is capable of killing gods, said the brown-haired boy. Sometimes I think that I don't deserve everything I have. It was just luck that Drake was with me. I think that someone better than me should have had Drake. I even stained his name that he went from being a security to a pay dragon, said the brown-haired boy. But there is something that makes you better, said Louise, drawing the brown-haired boy's attention. Maybe you're right that you're perverted and all, but what makes you unique is that you help without asking for anything in return, and that makes you a better person. You don't know that if the other better person hadn't done what you've done, and that's why they fell in love with you, she said, to which Issei just smiled and encouraged him in a certain way, and in his thoughts he proposed to rescue his women and make them happy as he could. Thank you, Louise, the brown-haired boy thanked with a smile that made the pink-haired girl blush. Well, I have to go to sleep since I have classes tomorrow, said Louise as the brown-haired boy watched as she went to her room. The next day. Okay, everyone is here, said Director Osmond. In the room you can see that there were Rias, Kuroka, Irina, Momo, the latter wearing the Ku Academy uniform, and Issei on one side sitting on an armchair. On the other side were Louise, Kerchi and Tabitha sitting, and in front of them at a table was the director with some teachers and his secretary Longuelive. Well, the reason we are here is to talk about an important issue, said the director, to which some teachers immediately closed the door. And what is that topic we have to talk about? Issei asked. The Staff of Destruction was a device that was stolen on the day the princess was here during the attack. And what's with that staff? Irina asked. Well, miss, that staff is a device that has been in my possession for about 30 years. With that staff I was saved from a dragon by a man who was wearing strange green clothes, said the director. Well, I suppose you want us to protect those who go looking for the Staff of Destruction, right? Issei asked. Yes, since they can use their women to attack us while we search, said Professor Colbert. At that moment Issei became serious and only thought that he has to rescue his women. I also invite you to read Quirk vs. Sacred Gears, Naruto Homecoming, Angels, Fallen Angels and Demons. At this moment you can see a group of people traveling in a carriage in front of which, leading the horse, was the secretary of the director of the Magic Academy. At the back of the same float were Louise, Kerchi, Tabitha and Issei, who were talking about what Issei's world was like. The 3 girls were impressed by what Issei's world was like, what society, magic, culture, etc. were like. The most interested in Tabitha was the latter because she was very fond of books and liked to study everything she could. Wow, your world is very interesting, young Issei, said the director's secretary, which Issei was beginning to suspect since she was the only one who offered to look for the Staff of Destruction. From what Director Osmond had told him, that secretary was previously a noble who resigned herself to being a simple secretary, which made Issei wonder why she resigned herself and did not seek revenge or a way to make the people or nobles who betrayed her pay and left her in her current position. Yes, it is very interesting. In fact, when I discovered the supernatural I was also impressed, and I was afraid because I would have to face strong people, but thanks to the motivation of wanting to protect my beloved Rias I did not put any limits on myself and I decided to fight for her to make her happy, said the brown-haired boy, surprising the women who began to see Issei with different eyes. Since in her world for men to do something like that they either had to marry them or give something to that noble so he could help her or help in what she needs. I know, but the brown-haired boy did it without looking at who he was helping, and he only did it to help without expecting anything in return, and now she understood why the brown-haired boy has a great harem and why everyone loves him. The journey to where the thief was last seen was calm for the good brown-haired boy, almost because the pink-haired boy is always fighting with the red-haired brunette, something that didn't make sense to him personally. If what you say, mate, this is not very different from the fights your females have to sleep with you, said the red dragon, mocking his companion. Not to mention that the people in front of you have an interest in you, and I feel that soon they will join your area. Who knows, even the princess wants to be with you, partner, Albion said, starting the conversation. But the strangest thing for the brown-haired boy was that his new companion hadn't spoken for a few days. so I'll try to talk to him right now. Hey Apollonier, are you okay? He hasn't spoken to us for several days, his new tenant asked the brown-haired boy. Mate, tell me what name you gave me is not from a fictional character, the black dragon asked, hoping that what the red and white emperor dragon said about his new name was a lie. I'm comfortable, but I can say without hurting your pride better such not worrying the dragon sealed inside him. Well no, it's true, I put it there because it was the first thing that came to my mind and it was also a series that I watched as a child and it was great to see Bakugan dragons. I'm sorry, the brown-haired boy apologized to his new friend and life and battle partner. The dragon didn't say anything anymore, he just stayed there crying in a corner, consoled by Drake. Something similar had happened to you when the brown-haired boy proclaimed himself as the Issei dragon. The only one who had not been affected by the brown hair was good, but deep inside he was worried about what shame he would make him go through since he had already damaged the reputation of the red emperor dragon indirectly by that of the new dragon of the power of Ophis. But returning to the brown-haired boy, he was seeing how the discussion between the girls would be since Kerchi was telling Louise that I had been a better mistress and by doing that she grabbed her breasts making the brown-haired boy blush because of the hint she was sending him which provoked the anger of Rosa who wanted to take his eyes out and tear off his breasts so that he wouldn't make fun of them. Well, that's what the school secretary said, getting the girls' attention and the brown-haired boy. So they decided to get off the carriage to investigate. Obviously Tabita had arrived at an abandoned cabin. So the group decided to enter except for Louise who decided to stay outside on guard not realizing that presents are approaching. But returning to the Sachnut who was investigating the cabin, he and the girls were looking for anything until Tabitha found what appeared to be the Staff of Destruction in its box. But the question is why did the thief leave it there? But her thoughts were interrupted when an explosion was heard. The group went out to see what was happening and great was their surprise when in the sky there were 3 women that the brown-haired boy quickly identified. The first was a girl with black hair tied in 2 pigtails, purple eyes and wearing a magical girl costume, in addition to floating with wings of what seemed to be a bat. This was Seraphal, one of the many women who have brown hair as a future wife. The second girl was a black-haired girl who had her hair down, a killer body, and was wearing a purple dress that made her figure stand out. The most notable thing about her were the black wings she had. She was a Penemu from Gregory's house, one of the brown-haired girl's many girlfriends. The last woman a blonde with dove wings since in her the word angel that gives perfection lived here that was that she wore a beautiful white dress and her halo as always giving a unique charm to the beautiful Gabriel one of the fiancés or rather the third fiancé of the brown-haired after the entourage of Rias. Seraphal, Penemu and Gabriel, I swear that I will make the bastard who is forcing you to do all this page, said the brown-haired man very upset at having to see one of his women crying again since the 3 of them began to shed tears. The Dragon King. The Sachnut at this moment was boiling with anger. The reason, they were using his fiancées as pawns of war. Gabriel, Penemu, Seraphal forgive me, but I swear that I will save you, said the brown-haired boy before turning to see his companions. Issei be careful please, said Louise, supported by the other girls who had accompanied her on this recovery mission. Don't worry, I'll be fine, said Issei before turning to see his fiancées who were being controlled. I can use my normal armor again now, Issei asked his battle companions. Yes, my friend, you can now use my and Albion's armor again, said Drake making someone annoyed by putting it in the background. In that case let's go, Issei said accumulating power to activate his balance breaker. Aha balance breaker, shouted the brown-haired boy. Welsh dragon balance breaker. Again the fight and with his old armor, he began to fight against his 3 fiancées. Boost, X15. Issei flew at full power to be able to fight alongside Gabriel, because he knew what his reach was and what he could be, so she flew towards the brunette who had activated his dragon wings to attack the blonde. Issei had attacked Gabriel, starting a duel between spear and sword, a fight that barely lasted and he could contain himself because he did not want to hurt her since he was someone important to her. The students of the academy watched the sword and spear fight between the angel and the dragon, well as he lunged and dodged the spear thrusts from Gabriel. A few minutes passed until, when Angel was not looking, the brown-haired boy punched her in the stomach, knocking the air out of her. I'm sorry Gabriel, said the brown-haired boy and then hit him in the face and knocked her out while she crashed. Tabitha, can you please heal her? Tristain asked the blue battery, which immediately began to heal her. The Tristain suddenly had to fly to the left because he had dodged the fallen angel's spear. Penemu, wait a little while, I come to rescue you, said Issei, seeing the fallen angel preparing to attack by creating a very large sword of light. Okay, here we go again, said the brown-haired boy, and then attacked the fallen angel in the same way he attacked Gabriel. Hadn't he attacked the black-haired girl in a sword duel where they both clashed to gain territory? Mate, don't you notice it's very strange? The dragon asked the brown-haired boy, causing him to stare at him, or rather, at the glove. What do you mean, Drake? Asks the brown-haired dragon companion, causing the other two to pay attention, because they haven't noticed him either. I mean, it was really easy for me how you beat the angel because she's a seraph. I thought it was going to be more difficult for us to beat them. But you're fine being too easy for the girls that I think it takes time because they are middle class, upper class, but they, said the dragon, making the brown-haired boy stop and think about it. It's true that they will be planning, thought the brown-haired boy to himself, causing the dragons to look for a solution. Or think of a solution. Then you think about that, partner, and as long as you do it again with them the mark will be strengthened, Albion said, making the brown-haired boy blush at what the white dragon had said. Well, let's leave that for later. We have to concentrate on this. Having said this, the brown-haired girl attacked the brunette, throwing a stab at her that she dodged, but the brown-haired girl, not stopping there, threw a kick that hit her in the face, throwing her to the right where she crashed into some trees. I'm sorry, Penemu, excuse the brown-haired boy, because I shouldn't have been able to defeat her just by raising her power, and the black dragon was upset by the name he had given her. Oh my dear sir, son, says, seeing the black-haired girl with pigtails, feeling very bad about hitting his dear magical girl. And without warning, Seraphal launched several ice projectiles, to which the brown-haired boy created a wall of fire that protected him and the girls. Issei increasing his body heat and making some increases in power to attack the black-haired girl. Issei flew at a fast speed, standing behind and hugging the black-haired girl. He began to spin on his own axis, causing a mini tornado of fire so that in the end he would drop the black-haired girl. It was the blow that was heard in the impact zone where the black-haired girl with pigtails fell. Issei quickly went to give her first aid for the blow to see that she had nothing serious. Issei felt guilty since he had hit his women, but he would make the bastard who was controlling them pay. 10 minutes later. We have to go, said Louise, taking the staff of destruction. But in that they would be attacked by an earth golem. This 3. Dragon shot. Issei had launched his attack at the golem's head, destroying it immediately. Curses, my plans were frustrated, said a green-haired girl that Issei and the girls had immediately recognized. Why are you doing that? Kerchi asked Director Osman's secretaries. Nothing in particular, I just want to see the revolution and see this kingdom burn, said the director's secretary. So you are Fukit? Asked the brown-haired boy, to which the movie really took place. The idea was to steal the Staff of Destruction, then use the Familiar of the Void to teach me how to use the Staff of Destruction, but nothing goes as planned, she said, speaking all her plans in front of the students of the academy. Not if I avoid it, said Issei, launching himself to attack the woman, but in that. If you want to see your women alive you will have to face them, but for that you will have to let me go, said the woman, making Snut stop for a moment, giving him the opportunity to escape. Once the Snut realized that the woman was disappearing through a magic circle. See you later, Seku. The woman said goodbye, making the brown-haired boy angry. Damn! Issei shouted, but then he remembered that he had regained more attraction to his women. I will take them to a safe place, said the brown-haired boy, hugging the fallen angel, demon and angel, and using a magic circle he disappeared, taking the girls, their wives and him to the academy. Battlefield. We see